Just checking on the other two. Yeah. Board members, it may be online, but there.
There's George.
Yeah.
He can be a substitute.
Yeah.
Like MCTI.
Rebecca should be here in 3 minutes. Okay. She's in traffic.
Deb said you.
Yeah. And Deb won't be here.
No,
She
Deb.
has, yeah, she has another meeting.
Oh,
Or she
okay.
has to attend. I wasn't sure if she was gonna be able to be online or not at all.
Ian, how would you like us to get her booked under? Do you guys usually have a way that you think?
If you text her or you and just say, do you wanna pop by, do you wanna save it until the
Okay.
board meeting? That's fine, I mean, she'll be here for the policy, I think that's her next.
I'll just grab next one, so I forget. That and I'll reach out.
Sorry. no, sure. We can acknowledge her in the records.
You do.
I'm gonna call the meeting. And, well, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Just to add for roll call, Debbie will not be able to attend, and Rebecca should be popping in any minute. Welcome. A motion to approve the agenda for June 24th, 2024, with members of the committee reserving the right to add to the agenda and take further action in the district's best interest.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I do need to make a motion though to remove item G from the agenda and also item D from advisory recommendations. And that's concerning the robotics class. We don't have all the information that we need for that yet moving forward.
What was
Okay.
the other one? I'm sorry. G.
Under G, under items for discussion, and D under Roman numeral 7 advisory recommendations.
Okay.
Okay. All right, may I have approval for those changes?
Motion.
Motion for those approvals, so move second, okay, all set.
Aye.
Motion to approve the May 22nd, 2024 meeting minutes.
Motion.
Second discussion, I just have 2 corrections for that. Under Roman numeral 3, school personnel present, to add Trinae Laurie to that list. And the name Jacob Morris is a community member, not a school personnel person. And I think that was it. Any other corrections? Okay.
Nope.
And so move to those corrections. All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, okay. As I don't see Trinae Laurie here this evening, we will skip the B Alliance update. Hello, Rebecca. And Mr. Forsythe, about our communications update.
Good evening.
Evening.
Before you start, Eric, I'm sorry, I wanted to make sure, particularly for roll call, that we see the extra personnel online. I see Heather Pipparata, board member, George Andrews, I think that's all I see at this point.
And the schedule,
Yes,
Miriam was going to ask after that, is that okay?
of course,
Okay, just want to make sure.
that's fine, thank you.
Good evening. We'll be doing the roll call. Ann Catrillo,
Yeah.
Jason Goldstrom,
Present.
Rebecca Bear,
Present.
Debbie Kulik,
So,
absent.
thank you.
Just bear with me a second here. We made
Sure.
a change back there. I just want to get it back where it needs to be. All right. All right. Well, good evening, everyone. As we're here in June already, don't know where the last school year went, right? I always enjoy the questions we get here over the summer. What do you do all summer? You're off, right? Yeah, no, we're not. A lot going on. So I thought what I would do here in June is just sort of take a look back and a look forward. We did wrap up a lot of significant initiatives during the 23-24 school year, and some of them are moving on forward even yet as we speak. So, but with that being said, there's a lot of new things on the horizon as well. And I have an answer or two to some questions that came up in previous meetings here and also from some other committees regarding some of the projects that we're pursuing right now. So just a quick look back at 23-24, and all of these in some way relate to communication, whether it's with our staff, whether it's with our administrative systems that assist our parents and our students, but everything that we've taken undertaken in the past year has significantly streamlined processes or been clearer for our staff to utilize certain systems. The Frontline Time and Attendance Initiative was no exception, with the district moving into the use of the Central Susquehanna Intermediate Unit FIS. We had to make changes to align all of our time and attendance and time accounting software to that new system, but in a way that would make it simpler for the employees, but also a time savings for those support staff that work in the payroll department. We're happy to report that we got some feedback from the individuals working there that have indicated some processes that took hours, sometimes as much as 4 hours, just in the routine process of a payroll period, have been reduced to 15 minutes or less. That's afforded them not to have free time on their hands, but now to take care of other tasks in the office that might have been suffering due to the processing inefficiencies. I do have to give a great shout out, though, to our payroll team in the business office. They've been exceptional at working with us, not in a silo environment, but really breaking down walls, opening up communication, and everyone now is starting to understand and respect each other's lane, if you will, so that we can assist each other, but we respect the lane. And that's been very, very informative to all of us. We spent a lot of time just sitting, watching processes. And to me, listening is perhaps the most important part of communicating at times, and just watching and listening to what they were doing, what their challenges were, and how they worked, so that we could come back with a system that we already owned and design it to better work for them. So that's been a success. And we now have rolled that entire project into what we call support or maintenance mode. It's no longer an implementation. As you know, the website redesign has been an ongoing project for more than 8 months now. I'm not going to show you anything about that tonight. You've seen the preliminaries, and the reason we're not is you might think of this like the home improvement show. When you start getting close to the reveal, you got to throw everybody out. There's too much work to be done. My assistant, Rebecca, is working feverishly bringing content over that's relevant into the new website. But we are finding that there is a ton of irrelevant content, and it takes a long time to sift through that. It's actually much more voluminous than we imagined it was once our software provider dug it all out of the former website and put it in front of us. But we are working through that, with the most important pieces being put out there first. We're happy to report, and we'll give you a little screenshot later, that the parchment implementation was complete for all of our transcripts throughout the district for both North and South High School. We're moving forward now, looking at ways that we can find more secure and efficient ways to transfer district records out of our district when a non-graduate is involved. We currently have district to district transfer set up for our schools, but we also transmit records to other places, children and youth agencies, the court systems, individual requesters such as parents who've withdrawn students from the district and no longer have access to the secure Sapphire portal. So we're looking at ways to transmit those documents in compliance with the FERPA law. And also throughout the last school year, we implemented Route Finder Plus in our transportation department. It moved them from the former Pro version up to the Plus version with more tools, bells, and whistles that actually assist us with communication. We have the ability with Route Finder Plus to send those bus notices directly from their system. It's more efficient because we're not involving personnel in multiple offices, data exports and imports, but it can come right out of the system there. But in a minute, we'll show you another efficiency that's coming this next school year that will even in some ways depreciate that communication needs in Route Finder Plus. And in the 23-24 school year, we implemented district-wide our truancy dashboard. That really helped us shine a light on the amount of work that needs to be done within each of our schools in order to effectively pursue compulsory attendance, but most importantly, offer the attendance improvement plans to all of the students so that we can avoid the process with the magisterial district justices if at all possible. We collected a lot of data there, and we're going to be bringing recommendations back through our acting superintendent soon to indicate how we can better staff that area of the district. And lastly, but not least, attendance scanner. We figured the most accurate way to pursue attendance is to make sure that we're effectively and efficiently marking the students as absent or present. So we implemented a system right at our front desks in all of our buildings so that we're not taking lists of handwritten attendance documents, this is during this past school year, and handing them to an attendance secretary to transcribe. Rather, you can be scanned in using your badge or your name if you're a student right at the front desk, and it automatically timestamps that, gives them a pass to class, and puts it right into our student information system, which is important to us from a communication standpoint, because we don't want to call parents whose students really aren't absent. We want to make sure that we gather as much accurate data as we can. Now, looking ahead, we're hitting July here already. Next meeting will be coming very quickly. We're implementing our frontline recruiting and hiring. Just to give a quick preview of what that looks like, we have our initial screens built along with Frontline for that. It totally changes the look of our first page when someone visits ESASD.net/jobs. It'll take them to a location where they can apply as an internal applicant or as an external applicant. And there's a big difference in what you need to communicate with individuals here, because while the documentation may ultimately be the same, the requirements are the same, the process is different. It doesn't require as much information from an internal applicant only as it does from an external. So we're a big believer of not having individuals fill out information or paperwork, documentation they don't have to. So it separates those processes here. So more to come here. We already have some of the classifications built out, and pretty soon we'll be working with our Human Resources Department to start populating the current vacancies so that this is ready when the website goes live. Board docs. We have heard a lot about that. We have been directed now by our acting superintendent to pursue a full digital implementation of board docs. So we did begin that process with building on our department's end the framework for that. In the coming weeks already, we'll be involving the superintendent's office, the human resources office, and others down to the committee level who have input on what goes on an agenda, including the committee secretaries, so that we have all of our platforms, all of our meetings rather, built out on this platform. The board as a whole, though, will be our first initiative, and we'll bring the committees along later. Already the presence for that is out there on board docs. We don't have any of the meetings listed yet if one were to go up and click the meeting tab, but we do have the landing page ready to go with our current contact information on there. Again, I did mention Parchment is brought to fruition, but we're now releasing it so students can use it. The current year transcripts are out there. So on our district's website, and this is a picture of how it appears on the new website that's up and coming. It is similar in layout too, but a little fresher than our current one. All of the links are already there with the important transitional notice that we put out there regarding how we request the transcripts. When someone clicks on one of those links, what you see on the right side of the screen opens up specific to their high school, and they can start out simply by entering their email address, creating their account. They get vetted, and then they're able to have access to their transcript, which is already in the Parchment system. It doesn't go out, though, without a set of human eyes looking at it and making sure that the information truly matches. But instead of having to go into the file or into the system and extract that information, we're simply able to ensure the match and then release it. And all of the students are receiving those services free of charge per the board's current policy directive.
Can a parent do it on behalf of their student, or does the student have to go in and do it?
Good question. The question is, can a parent do that in behalf of a student? They cannot, because the student will have already reached the age of majority, or they would have graduated from high school when the transcript goes there, and they have to make that request themselves to match that up.
Still, when they graduate.
If they're a minor, don't forget, and they're still here, let's
Backtrack. Let's say they graduate, but they're still 17.
right. And that's fair. The mechanism that they would have to use is requesting it themselves.
Okay.
If a parent does need that and they're unable to do it through parchment because they wouldn't be able to vet as the student, they still can contact the district. We recognize that a parent still has access to a student's record for a certain window of time there. And there are some students who are in a dependency status beyond that age where the parent can still access their record. What I was going to say is, for those that are currently enrolled, the parents and the students have access through Sapphire, because an unofficial copy of the transcript is always posted there for them. These are strictly for the official copies that may need to be requested and sent to colleges, employers, and the
And then
like.
how long, so they don't have to have an active school email to request through parchment. So if they're already graduated, obviously their email goes away. They would just use their personal email or their college email, whatever they're going to have to do it.
That's correct. They use whatever email they wish. They're vetting their information through other means. Their email is not one of those indexed pieces of
Will they need
information.
their existing student ID number that they had when they were in school.
They will need their name, their date of birth. There's a few other pieces, and the fact that we've already put them up there on the roster. So it matches all of that to their current transcript. It does ask a lot of questions.
Okay.
I would encourage anyone who hasn't done it, do it. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything to try it, and give us any feedback. We welcome that. And then the last piece of looking ahead here, well, next to last, is the school vehicle technologies. I'm only going to speak about the part that's relative to communication. There's a lot going on in the bus lots starting in about 2 weeks, with forklifting of the current GPS technologies from the buses, replacing all of that, replacing or installing tablets for driver use in the front of the buses, as well as putting in the brand new camera systems, which total about 1,300 plus total cameras that will be going in our fleet of school buses. That is going to occur during the weeks of July 8th through about the 19th. We allowed full 2 weeks for that. We're anticipating we'll get done just a little bit sooner, and we're holding back any installations and vehicles that we know will be leaving us in September, October, and we'll take care of those at that time. But what these technologies will provide for us is an application called Stop Finder. And while we currently have the ability through our Route Finder to push out bus assignment information, we know that the bus assignments within our district can at times change daily. A bus might swap itself out. And I believe this committee had asked a question, with the number of buses that we have that might be substituted each day or running late, can Stop Finder keep up with that? And the answer is yes. We found that Stop Finder will be able to provide the parents with a look at when the bus is coming, where it is in relation to their stop. They can also for themselves set up little geo fences. So some of the large or key points with Stop Finder, it provides reliable and secure bus stop information. The parent's the subscriber. They get invited to participate, and then that parent can choose to share their invitation with whomever they want to that needs to know when the bus is coming. So they will get updated information if the bus is running late. It ensures secure communication with the transportation department. There is the ability for the application to do two-way messaging. So questions can be asked, answers can be given. We can also push out messages, much like we do with Blackboard Connect. We can communicate with a group just based on a grade level, an entire school, in a certain map region if we're experiencing congestion due to an accident on Interstate 80 and so forth.
So it's immediate then, pretty much.
It's an immediate push out question.
So for example, let's say there's student athletes or, the music department's going on somewhere. Will it also do it for the trips as well, or is it just for the general bus transportation?
As long as a trip roster is put in there for that, which would be something that the transportation dispatchers would have to do, yes, it would be treated as a route, and that information could be shared with individuals.
So if the coaches, for example, go to Lehigh Valley for whatever game, as long as they know which student athletes are on that bus, the parent can then get access to it? Is that how that works?
That's how that would work. Let me check with Mrs. Robbins and see if all of those rosters are put in as routes or trips. I know presently, I don't believe that they are because of the agility with
That would
them,
be a nice idea.
but they have them on the trip.
went to pick up our kids at.
I understand. Sure.
You know, you
Yep.
were always like, when are they coming back?
Yeah, and those are perhaps some of the most unknowns that we have as far as a schedule, because it can sometimes depend on the event length. So
Exactly.
certainly. Yep, let me ask that. Thank you for that question. We can allow the subscribers and or the office to receive information as well. Photos, it's not just limited to text messages is the point there. And what our hope would be is we can reduce misinformation, because right now one person may find out and whisper down the lane occurs, and it doesn't occur real well at times. Even though our office's focus is to be able to go on and send a Blackboard Connect Ed message immediately, there's so many layers of other things that are happening in the transportation office that sometimes that just gets pushed off a few minutes, and minutes make the difference. So we're going to look at making a transition to a single messaging platform. This would be our goal, but it's going to occur over the first quarter or two of the school year, because launching a brand new application to 15,000 parents and untold others that they share the link with would be a support travesty. So we're going to slow that down, start with a pilot group, and we've discussed doing that with some of our summer transport students since we have a limited number of runs.
Question, sorry. So, for example, let's say I share the information with you, right? But something happens, I don't want you to know the information anymore about my kid. Can I unshare it with you?
We would have to issue a new invitation, and you can share that with whomever you'd want to get.
But will it shut down the old one?
It shuts down the whole old one.
Okay.
Yep. One invitation per parent account. Yep. And of course, the point of it is making sure parents and guardian know where their bus is, thus, stop finder. And really, what's the end game? We know that we have challenges that we're facing, personnel wise and otherwise, with pupil transportation. They're still working hard, filling positions. But we want to give the parents as much peace of mind as we can, that at least if all the parts are moving rapidly, we can keep up with it. One of the questions that was asked was, with all of our changing buses, can we accommodate that, or will it just tell me where my student's bus should have been? So if bus 15 becomes bus 16 at 2 o'clock, will I now know where that bus is? Because that's a whole different GPS transponder. The answer is yes. We specifically investigated that with Transfinder. It is possible, and it's part of the training that our department will be receiving, the transportation department, as the product is rolled out. So their standard operating procedures are going to change. They're actually going to have to be performing 2 sets for a period of time as we get everyone rolled out onto Stop Finder. But ultimately, when someone's bus changes, it will let the parent know that A, the bus was substituted, and B, where the bus is, and it still works with all of the criteria that the parent set up themselves. So if you're a parent that just wants to know when the bus gets to the stop, you can set your app to tell you that. If you want to know when it gets within 5 miles of the stop because you want to walk to the bus stop to meet your student, it will tell you that. So it's very customizable to the individual user.
So will it tell you if your student got on the wrong bus?
If your student got on the wrong bus.
Yeah, so for example, let's say the kid, because I've seen this year at Lehman, we had a kid that quote unquote went missing, but really wasn't missing, but they went on the wrong bus to a friend's house and
Okay.
didn't tell their parents, and they didn't show up at the bus stop. So will they know if Jason got on the wrong bus and went to your house instead of coming home?
So yes, this integrates with our Z-Pass system we currently have. And in the event that there's something that doesn't occur at that level, we still have the ability with Z-Pass to tell you what bus that student got off of. Okay, so we have 2 layers there. So again, once we integrate the whole piece, and we're going to give ourselves time with this because it's so much change for the transportation department, those are all the pieces that have to come together with it. So we're mentioning just Stop Finder here, but again, we have Stop Finder, Transfinder, Zonar. All of these pieces of software have their own niche and the hardware, and they're all being integrated to work together after the hardware is all installed in the next few weeks.
Sorry for all the questions.
No, but don't be.
It's wonder.
No, don't be. Don't apologize for the questions, because the questions, we think of a lot. We don't think of everything.
Well, in fact, you could answer them all, obviously you did. So
But I also said, let me find out on a couple of them, and that's important that we do that. You'll notice I'm not taking notes. We go back and watch the meetings ourselves, and we pull everything out of them afterwards
I have to ask too many questions.
to make sure that we get the answers back to you. So again, we have just a
Question to
recap.
Mr. Forsythe.
Frontline, our board docs, parchment, and in the school vehicle technologies area, we're,
I think Heather might have.
oh, is that Heather? I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I'm not quite sure how to raise my hand, and I didn't want to interrupt you. I just wanted to ask for a clarification, because Mrs. Bear did raise the issue of field trips, for example, for band. Is it correct to say we can do all these things as long as the vehicle is our school bus? If it's a chartered bus, that is not correct?
That would be a correct statement. Yeah, we're referring strictly to the technologies that are on our school vehicles.
I thought so. I just wanted to be sure. Thank you.
You're welcome. And we're also implementing a service finder piece, which is a new piece of hardware for the garages. Not a big communications point, but it popped in here under the school vehicle technologies so that all of our service records are electronic. And that's good for the driver. It allows them using their tablets to enter service requests and other things directly for the garage. And then lastly, Primero Edge point of sale system. We're working right now to enhance the front end of our school cafeterias. They're working on software that is untold decades old. I mean, I remember the software that they've been using in there for many years, but to that point, it's been solid. It's just coming to the end of life, as is the server on which it's operating. So the food services department has purchased Primero Edge's Express point of sale service. And that point of sale service does two things. It provides an app on the parent side that allows for payments. It allows for viewing of the menus. It allows for pre-ordering. It allows for various functions for the parent side. On the right side, it provides on the existing touchscreen hardware in the cafeterias a new front end system that they're going to be receiving training on and actually help us build over the summer with their menu options, the a la carte options and so forth. So that when a student comes in the line, they'll have a scanner there that they can either scan their barcode or read the keypad for their ID, and it pulls the student's photo up on the screen, just as the current software does, so they can verify them if they don't have their photo ID, and then they can quickly hit the buttons to accommodate their meal charges under the community eligibility program or additional a la carte options. And it allows it to be charged to the account. Now, we know a number of parents in our community currently have positive balances in the My School Bucks program. So before we launch, we work with the output for My School Bucks to remove all of those balances and bring them over, and we import them into Primero Edge so everybody starts where School Bucks left off to the penny. Because the money isn't really with them, the money's already with the district. They just keep track of it. So we're just going to move the accounting of it from My School Bucks over to School Cafe so that the parents can begin the school year with the balances that were there.
So well, this one thing I didn't like about My School Bucks was I would see the transactions that happened, but I wouldn't necessarily know what my student bought. So with this new system, yours is, the iPad looks all pretty with the categories and what it is, like ice cream or chips. Will I actually know if my son or daughter bought wings or chips or ice cream? So I know what they're buying. So I can say if they bought like 3 sets of wings, did you really eat all that? Or did you buy for your friends?
Understood. Let me bring a sample of what that looks like to our next meeting and show you. Okay, very good. So we have a lot going on, a lot of irons in the fire, as we say, and we're hoping as the school year begins, most of them will be in place. We certainly have to have the point of sale system there, the website there. We have our new hiring and careers page that will be launched. But areas that we're, again, going to implement slowly and very methodically with good communication include Stop Finder, so that we can start with a small pilot group of parents and continue to move that forward. Our goal would be to have that live sometime in the month of October after our group spoke.
What about a point of sale system for concession stands at events like football games, basketball games, soccer games? Will we be able to have because right now it's cash only. And a lot of times when we have visiting teams, they can't buy anything because nobody carries cash anymore. So would this point of sale system be able to be used in the concession stands and then go to the athletic department for credit rather than cafeteria?
So you'd be looking more than the point of sale system. The question is, will we be able to implement a contactless payment point of sale system that would reimburse the cafeteria fund through the district's? Yeah, that's something we have to look at. Yeah, that would clearly be an additional element of this project because it involves a different form of payment that we're not currently implementing anywhere in the district. However, we are getting closer to being able to implement the payment system for all other obligations we spoke about last year that was halted by the software companies. We just received some communication last week regarding the possibility of moving that forward, and our analyst is working on putting that together for the next school year. Not the next, but the coming school year, so that we can have that in place.
Ticket lists or cash lists sort of for getting into sporting events.
With Hometown, yes, we did.
However, that doesn't always work, because if you don't have Verizon up at the North Campus, your phone doesn't work.
Mhm.
So we have like a little bit of a glitch with that. It works great if you have service, but if you don't have service, it doesn't, or you have to make sure the link is sent out in advance so that people can use it, but you don't know for the visiting team in advance who's coming, so.
Hometown has the option too for the tablets at the game that are connected to our networks here to be able to sell and issue tickets as well.
They don't do that though.
Well, let me check and see if there's a reason, and maybe there's something that needs to be done for that to occur. So
Okay.
we'll check about hometown point of sale at the game, other than using one's personal mobile device.
Right, 'cause usually they just have you scan the QR code and do it yourself on the phone,
Mhm.
but if you can't scan because you have no bars, then you're.
Yeah. You would just want to tap to pay is what you're suggesting. Okay. Thank you. I'll take that back.
Yeah.
Anything further? That's all I have. Jason?
Do you have anything? Okay, just a couple of things on the board docs, just going back to there.
Sure.
I know when you do start implementing board docs, you'll start it from when it's implemented on that specific board agenda moving forward, and then you'll work backwards on the others. Do you plan on going back as far as we have record wise?
We are planning on going back to everything you see on our current website.
And then we'll cover all committees as well within the board docs? Okay,
That's the intent.
okay, and then the last thing is, what doc type are we gonna utilize within there? I'm assuming it's a PDF file of some sort, but is it gonna be like an OCR PDF that's gonna be searchable, or are they gonna be static PDFs that are not?
Okay, good question. So you're speaking to some of the reasons we wanted to move to a platform like Board Docs. Currently, the PDFs that exist on our website that have been uploaded should all be OCR scannable, with the exception of some of the backup documentation because of how they were built for many years. We are taking those documents, that information, and moving it over as is into Board Docs, so that historically one can then search the reference documents. The challenge we have on our current website is that it no longer has a search engine that's capable of digging into a PDF and indexing it.
Right.
Board Docs can. So Board Docs will index all the PDFs by scanning all the words that are in them and then telling you where this phrase occurs, so you can click right to that point in the PDF.
Okay.
So that's how we're going to bring all the historical data over. Moving forward from day one in Board Docs with the new agenda, it's in Board Docs native format, meaning it's a web page. You search it and every agenda item has attached directly to it the relative supporting documentation subject to security clearances. So if it's a personnel item, the board logins would permit one access to that, whereas the general public would have perhaps a different version or no backup to that in accordance with the law. If one wants to print that agenda, however, then there's an option within Board Docs to print it. And from there, they could generate their own PDF of it to save or to print out on their printer. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I just know it just becomes a bit frustrating when you try searching back on supplemental material and you have 400 pages and you're trying to scroll through those 400, and readable PDFs are a little bit easier to navigate, but no, thank you.
I agree entirely. We're very excited to get in an area where we don't have to always go to our secretaries or the board secretary and say, Patricia, I'm very sorry, but could you go and find the agenda somewhere that has this word in it? Yeah,
Awesome.
but that's the intent, is to stop that, and to the extent possible, be able to be self-serving with the older agendas. Worst case with the older agendas, you'll find it in the agenda. Then we'll have to read what page it is in the backup and then go manually dig to that page. But it'll be much more efficient than what we have now, which is zero search capability outside of opening each PDF one at a time and searching through them.
Right, excellent, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, that was great.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey, Dr. Bradley for our chat outs.
Thank you. I don't know, are we able to put the video back on, Tyra? Yeah, so some of you may have seen when you arrived, we have a short 1 minute plus video of some samples of the project that was conducted between JTL and ESE. So the students at ESE in the art program drew their monsters for part of their art class. And then as a collaboration with JTL, they brought those projects to life in a 3D monster and then shared the presentation with me at the conclusion of the project. I happened to be at JTL when they were beginning looking at the images and making their designs, and that's part of why Ms. Schmansky and Ms. Christopher shared this with me, and also in partnership with Ms. Ballard at ESC.
That's amazing. Imagine how excited the elementary
Oh my
kids
goodness, look
were
at that.
to see it.
Yeah, come to life.
Mhm.
Do that one.
So Ms. Miller is a kindergarten teacher at ESC.
Oh. It's interesting to see the vision of a monster.
So as you watched the last couple, just wanted to give a shout out to those staff members for making the connection with one another to provide this opportunity for our intermediate students to work with our elementary students and then produce this final project for our students at the elementary level.
I like that one.
And this is just a sample. There were quite a
That's
few
a
more.
kindergarten.
Yeah, that's a really good
Wow.
program.
That's kindergarten, wow.
Yeah,
Right?
Better than me.
I was just gonna say.
Well, our teachers do amazing work with all of our children.
Thank you.
That's the last slide there, but there were many more, but I thought you'd enjoy us.
So,
That's fantastic.
thank you. for
You're
sharing that
welcome,
with
of
us.
course.
And to the teachers and students, great job for sure. We'll move on to Dr. Vibrato for the high school math curriculum.
Good evening, everyone. We presented to you last time as committee members, the drafts of the final curriculum that the teachers worked very hard to put together, our math teachers, joint collaboration between North and South teachers. When we have received some feedback, and so thank you to members who had a chance to look that over. Specifically, Mrs. Catrillo gave us a number of suggestions for consistency and for clarity, which we greatly appreciated. And we are taking all those that feedback, and we're adjusting those to move forward. So I wanted to ask this evening if any other members of the committee had more feedback or suggestions for us on the curriculum that we provided to you last month.
I did, if I
Yeah.
could. Just a few questions, and I'm sure they overlap with Ms. Excuse me, Ms. Cottrello had already asked. So I'd seen some of your suggestions, and so I'll try to skip over those things. I notice in, our course of studies, we offer a certain course as, say a CP or an honors level course. And then when we have our, excuse me, our curriculums that are rewritten here, how do we differentiate that content between the, I think, say, for example, like Algebra 2 that has, that has applied in honors. How do we differentiate that, and how do we put it into the curriculum? Because we specifically, in each one of these curriculums, we specifically state what level that curriculum is for. So how will we move forward doing that? Like, say, for example, SAT prep in math, there's a CPN, there's an honors level course. And this one is specifically. So I just want to make sure that our curriculums are matching up to our course of studies. So, and I think that was one of the things that was discussed there too.
That was one of the things that I wrote up when I met to put the agenda together with
Right.
Dr. Vibrato, and I had the same concern, and particularly was very concerned because where the mark of differentiation was, for some of the courses was like one sentence.
Right.
And we had never, at least I've been retired for a couple of years, but not that long. We had never written just one curriculum and done a differentiation. So, I had asked her about that, and I'll respond to what you told me, please feel free.
Right.
That what we have in front of us will be just the CP curriculum with whatever changes
Okay,
we have
So
made
then,
suggestions to. And then, the honors and apply will be, that they'll have to be written, actually, because they have not been
They'll
written.
be very similar to these,
Yeah.
but just. And then a couple other questions too, apologies.
No.
On some of these things, we have in their standards for high school, and the old ones, we listed the standard for the high school, and the new ones, we seem to have removed that. I tried seeing how we rewrote it somewhere else inside of there, but I didn't necessarily see that. And then the other one was pre-calculus. Is this the same as our pre-calculus / trig course that we're currently offering, or is this going to be a new course that we're going to be offering in the future?
there's trigonometry and there's pre-calculus, so two separate classes, because there's.
Well, no,
pre-calculus-
there's not. There's pre-calculus / trig
Okay, this is,
in the course of studies.
okay, because.
And then there's a trigonometry course in the course of studies.
Okay, because I thought
Right.
pre-calc was only honors.
Well, this pre-calculus one,
Not
this
CP.
pre-calc trig matches the exact curriculum to the pre-calc / trig
Okay,
curriculum that we currently have. So is that just
Mistake.
a mistake in the writing of pre-calculus / trig curriculum that we currently have?
So it should say pre-cal, whatever is the title in the program of studies, it should be the title of this curriculum also.
Okay, because in the program of studies, it's pre-calculus / trig.
Okay.
This one that we got, it just says pre-calculus. I didn't know if it was a new course, and then I went through it, and this curriculum is exactly the same curriculum as the pre-calc / trig. So I'm assuming it was the same course, that we weren't adding a new course in there, because it's still an honors level course. So I
Yes.
just wanted to make sure that.
I think what happens here, and we'll go back and add this to our checklist within our office, is that, colloquially, and this as a teacher, right? Regardless of what the title is in the program of studies, we may call it something different as colleagues, right? And then when we go to write it, we don't often look at the program of studies and what that is. We put the colloquial instead of the formal. But my office should have caught that.
That's fine. I just want to make sure that we weren't adding.
Now for admin assistants, but I'm happy to add that needs to match. Just for everybody's sanity, I want the exact same thing in the program of studies as in this curriculum, including the course description. The course description that's listed in the curriculum should match word for word what it is in the program of studies.
Right. And then I think in some of them, specifically say for the SAT prep, I saw it in a few of the others too. In the listed for the the ELLs, the IPs, the GIPs were for differentiated instructions. And in some of them, it says, see Google Classroom. That's the new version of this one. The old version actually has links to particular locations in which that differentiation was, or how that differentiation could have been taken place. So I just didn't know if those Google Classrooms for that differentiated.
So
And
that
some
is
of them-
something else. Sorry,
Yeah,
go
and
ahead.
in some of them, it goes on and says, based upon, their GIEPs or IEPs and, accommodations and so on. I get that, but, we have sections that are labeled see Google Classroom, that there's nothing in it.
Yes,
So-
correct.
And that was it.
Phil and I definitely discussed that also. And some of these were initiatives from leadership in our office that is not there anymore, including those Google Classrooms. So that was an idea that was brought by our former team, and I'll be discussing that with our department chairs because I think the intent there was to populate that with things that were really helpful for teachers. But when you have that wording then on the curriculum, that's not helpful for parents or families.
Right.
And B, how much are the teachers using that Google Classroom and populating that Google Classroom on a real-time basis with resources that really are beneficial for the classroom. There's some differences in opinion on how effective that tool is. And so what we are going back and saying, we need to decide this. It's not happening for families. And we're not sure how effective it is for teachers in terms of the Google Classroom. So what you will be seeing is probably the removal of the wording regarding the reference to Google Classrooms, and then a more, even if it is, I don't want to say generic, but it is the same from unit to unit. In other words, you might see, please see resources on this particular EL website. Please see resources on that. And you may see that then repeated unit to unit to unit because the resources are there, but at least it gives families a way to say, okay, I know that with this content, in order to help my particular student, this is a resource, a website that I can go to, as opposed to just see Google Classroom that is not available to family.
No, and listen, I appreciate that as well as, the rest of us here. I mean, these are, it's a significant amount of work to rewrite a curriculum. They're lengthy documents, and getting everybody, to put everything together, accordingly, and trying to keep together, a similar structure for each of them. It's a difficult task, and with everybody working from different departments as well. And the last question I had was, and this was it, I promise. I really liked scope and sequence. As an educator, I like scope and sequence because I see it right away. Bang,
Yep.
This is everything we're doing.
Yep.
It seems like these got rid of the scope and sequence and just went straight to course outline, which is fine. But if you want to see, like, say you're a parent and you want to see what your child is going to study for that whole school year or semester, or in this case, or half semester, you see it in one shot, and these are the contents, and these are what we're going to study. With a course outline, which is what we have in both, it's great because it goes in depth to each one, but trying to figure out, through the whole course, it's a little bit more difficult. And just me personally as an educator, I've always loved seeing scope and sequence because it gives the students right there, this is everything we're covering in one shot. Because this one, especially the pre-calculate, it's 70 something pages, that can be overwhelming. If you're a parent, you go in there, and these are the family friendly versions.
Right.
And you go through that and you start looking at that and you're like, oh my goodness, I don't know if you should take this course. I'm not saying that would happen, but
Right.
but that's all the work that you guys have to put into this in order to to get the point across of all the information that's going to be taught. So it's a tough task, Herculean task to stick that all in there.
It is. Go ahead.
Yeah.
When I said my recommendations, that was one of the biggest ones I had as well. The scope and sequence, because we always have put scope and sequence
Right.
in. And it's, not only for parents, but I look at it from even new teachers coming in. You get them a document like this, it's overwhelming and it's not specific, even though it's so many pages, it's still not specific enough to instruction. But one of the things that, we have to look at and really, perhaps, have both Dr. Bradley and yourself and us talk about is the policies that we have in place.
Yes.
That really, they were revised, in 2018 and 2015. But the difference between what curriculum is and guides for planned instruction, then therefore part of, scope and sequence within that, so that, we know, I think as a board, generally speaking, especially board members, obviously, who are not educators and don't necessarily, know all the quote unquote language that comes with curriculum. What the differences are and what's needed, because as I said before, you can look at a curriculum and some of it is very abstract, whereas a scope and sequence is much more concrete. And when you have someone who is coming, out of let's say ESU, and coming to us as a new teacher to give them the scope and sequence, the real planned instruction, they will, each of those teachers will know what to do on day one, and I don't mean prescribed, on this page, But I mean,
Right.
you know, more specifically, in terms of not only like what is being taught, but what are the expectations, what are the ultimate goals and outcomes that we expect of every student. And then obviously, you know, what the differentiations are. And that's why you need 3 different curriculum if we're having 3 different levels. So I think those are things that, you know, we haven't really worked on as a district, you know, at least on the secondary level, that I can speak to since that's where my expertise was. But I think a lot of it is also grounded in policy. And we have to really take a really good look at policy and see if policy is philosophically on the same page to, you know, where we want it to be moving forward, because as a board, we, you know, have to, you know, here in this committee, obviously EPR, but then as recommended to the board, things that, you know, we feel need to be changed or need to be adhered to, perhaps even. You know, those kinds of things, working obviously with our directors and the new assistant superintendent when he or she is hired. So, you know, so we're all, you know, here, we're all on the same page, and we thank our teachers, you know, for the amount of
Appreciate you
work
guys.
that we all know goes into all of these things. And, you know, and the daily work that comes with being a teacher and giving great instruction and, you know, feedback, et cetera, to our students. But, you know, we definitely, that's, as far as education is concerned, this is the most important piece, you know,
It's
this
the
is
heart.
why, you know, this is why you know, we have schools and
Yeah.
we students here to learn to, you know, become wonderful and thriving members of our society. So, you know, we have a lot of work to do,
We do.
you know, as a district, as a committee, et cetera. So I want to say thank you, you know, first of all, on behalf of all of us, we understand, you know, how much work goes into all of that, and obviously very much, you know, willing to work, listen, you know, do everything that you need us to do also to support you moving forward. So. yeah.
Thank you. Dr. Bradley and I have had some great conversations, and again, taking the template that was developed under our past leadership team and then saying, there really just needs to be clarity in this process so that our documents match the wording that is in policy and procedure, and or we suggest to you a change to policy and procedure, right? That's how it works. And so and really looking at the different purposes and for curriculum, which you have alluded to tonight. So, you know, the law in Pennsylvania talks about the fact that there are very specific components of a curriculum that are delineated in the law that the board needs to approve. But then there are other pieces that are have dual purposes. One maybe for a family to really look at it and understand at a bird's eye view with lay language what it is that their child is going to be encountering in the certain curriculum, versus, to Mrs. Catrillo's point, that new teacher from ESU or from whenever who's graduating from an institution where things have been theoretical and now they're having to come to the classroom and design, right, make those design decisions for how it is that they're going to teach and have the students learn. So we really want a curriculum that is the non-negotiables that the board gets to decide, and then those planned instruction guides that the teachers within a department can use their expertise and their professional knowledge to develop for both the entering teacher who doesn't know anything and the veteran teacher who can contribute and make that a constantly better document. So we're looking forward to doing that in the next couple months, and we look forward to bringing that to you too for your suggestions. Thank you for these. I'd have to say I've been in many different districts, and to your point, this is the heart of what we do. And I have not had board members go to this granular level to give feedback. So thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for taking your jobs so seriously and working with us in concert to develop what's best for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Ladies.
Okay, so moving on, Dr. Vibrato, it's the AP psychology update.
Okay, so the College Board, located in New Jersey, is the overseeing organization that takes care of the advanced placement courses in the United States and abroad, actually. And they are not on the same curriculum cycle that we are. They revise their courses on a certain schedule, but then also depending on things that happen in the field, to be sure that we're giving the students the most up-to-date content and practices that we can. So College Board has recently said that the AP psychology class needs to be updated, and they've put out some parameters and standards around which we need to continue doing our work. Mr. Kernan and Mr. Kernan down south, Mrs. Prince up north have collaborated to start looking at those changes. They are not far-reaching changes, but enough that we want to provide them with the materials that they need to cover the new course content, the updated course content. So you'll see later on a recommendation for the purchase of AP Psychology books in order to coordinate with this the new standards that have been promulgated by College Board. Again, they're not extensive, and after review, Mr. Kernan and Ms. Prince have decided that their current textbook will do very nicely as long as they have the newest version of it. So those are the changes to AP Psychology. Again, they are not extensive. Mr. Kernan and Mrs. Prince seemed very pleased with what was happening, and they collaborated well to make sure that we updated our curriculum. Now, where they are in that process is that they, for some reason, they didn't know that they got a hold of an older template. And so they've actually developed the curriculum, but it's in a format that's different than the one that you saw in front of you with the math classes. So we're just going to take a pause and make sure that we transition the content over to our new format with the suggestions and feedback that you gave us tonight. And we'll have that for you at our July meeting.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Anything else for Dr. Pipperato? Well, because I think those are the only two items on the agenda for tonight for you.
Mrs. Catrillo, if I may just interject.
Of course.
I just want to do a shout out to Dr. Pipperato, who just completed a 2-day, she was the facilitator for a restorative practice training. We had some very positive outcome results. And Dr. Pipperato is now the I guess the official district-wide facilitator for all of our staff development with restorative practices. So I saw some of the comments that came back from staff that attended that, very positive. And so with Carol Dean Gardner, our secondary special education supervisor, collaborative work going in and moving this initiative forward. We started it last year. We did a small pocket and then we expanded it this year. So I just want to recognize that the work that Carol Dean Gardner and Dr. Pipperato have done in this area and to bring us to the forefront right now with restorative practices. So it was solid. And so Heather, thank you. Congratulations on that. Some real positive response to that, and certainly looking forward to what's to come for our group that is going through that process. Now, if I may jump in here, if you recall back in the May 22 meeting, you heard from the secondary admin presentation on the future educator cohort proposal. And that was phenomenal as I listened to that presentation, something that is, as you know, been going on for quite some time with an enormous amount of people at the secondary level. So we were excited about the numbers that got involved with that in terms of the staff involvement, in terms of the student involvement, and they carry over throughout the entire year, working with those students that have the ambition to be a future educator. Hopefully they come back and they work for East Stroudsburg Area School District. Now, saying that, in that meeting, you heard, the involvement of Northampton Community College, and you heard about the involvement of East Stroudsburg University, where we right now are it's a distinct pleasure of mine and to just mention the representative that we have with us this evening, and that's Dr. Gina Scala, who is here to talk about the ESU part of that. And just so we understand who we have, I'm always in awe every time I'm in the presence of this individual because she is state and nationally recognized for her 40+ years as an educator and working with ESU. And so, you know, we're excited, we're elated that Doc, what do you want to call it? You want to call it like a rebirth, a renewal, a revision of the partnership that East Stroudsburg Area School District is working with ESU. And so excited that you're here, trying to get you on board and get you scheduled. This is really exciting stuff. So we heard about the future educator proposal, but now you're going to hear about expanding that. And let's say we have a student or students going to ESU or going to Northampton Community College. So what's the next step? So Dr. Scala is here tonight, and she's going to just do a brief overview of that and share the great work that is taking place right now in that partnership.
I just have to compliment you from the beginning to now, everything that you accomplished. It's best practice, it's right on, questions are excellent. It's been a pleasure to sit here. It's almost sad that I have to present. I'm just enjoying listening. You know, you're getting your 45 in education in August, so it's just so nice to see the changes. Dr. Piperado, there's a new article out in Education Week on restorative practices. We just did some things with that, looking at Stephen Covey, Leader in Me being the elementary program that then transitions into restorative practices at the high school level. So great things, and social emotional learning. Overall umbrella, of which we have an endorsement. So it's very exciting to hear that. Just before I start, I was reading your future educator, and your district has been very involved in our AEPP, Aspiring Educator Pathway Project. July 17th and 18th, we have the 2-day summit, and we've done some excellent work. And what you're producing, we're able to present with all of the other schools. So we have over 17 schools now, plus community members, plus charter schools that are really moving the needle on the educator shortage in general. So I love working with them, and we look forward to
And Dr. Scott, if I may jump in, I attended the PDE conference this past spring. And East Stroudsburg Area School District was one of the districts that was mentioned, that was recognized with this program, this project. And again, down in Hershey, thousands of attendees, and East Stroudsburg is being recognized for its progress to address a national state emergency right now, which is staffing.
And we just presented last November in Pittsburgh, which was the national conference for the Council of Administrators of Special Ed. So it's getting a lot of national light. It'll be presented in Savannah. We're going, you know, all across the country, and I've been able to work at the national level on that, attract, prepare, and retain. So to see what Pennsylvania is doing is outstanding. But this is going to be a little section of some work. I'm sure you want to introduce yourself, Michelle? Of course. You're their employee, there you go.
I'm
I'm
Michelle Abadi. I'm a South High School teacher. And a couple of years ago, Ed Mooney asked about getting some special ed teachers in because we are in a shortage. And I said, oh, I have a great connection. I work at ESU too as an adjunct, and we need to restructure. And so that's kind of how I became a part of this project, and being at both facilities. I've just kind of been helping out here and there and filling in wherever is needed.
So this is going to look specifically at special education. And prior to 2009, Pennsylvania had a PK-12 special education certification, birth to 21. And in their wisdom, and for a number of reasons, they wanted to bifurcate that and create 2 PK-8 special ed, 7-12 special ed, but you can no longer have special education without a regular education degree. There were 63 people selected for that committee. I was one. We urged them not to do that. It was not prudent educationally. It was not prudent financially. It was not prudent socially, and it would impact the field negatively. We provided the studies of our contiguous states that went that way, and that all failed. We did projections. Your school district has been one of our professional development school partners for years. So we looked at our partners and said, okay, in an elementary school, when you have a grade level and you're starting to get that bubble, and I have to add another class, oftentimes principals will use their leeway to say, hey, I know you're a fourth grade teacher, but fifth grade's kind of bubbling. Can you go to fifth grade next year? And then I'll bring it back to fourth grade, but we have so many kids going up. And most of the time teachers say, sure, I'd be glad to do that. Well, we were finding, even for the majority of our schools, that's about a $92,000 investment, because now that fourth grade teacher could not move up. They had to go out and hire somebody. And so through that all, they still produced the document. There were 11 of us in that state that said, oh, I'm not signing on, you know, our reputations are gonna be dead once they see this. Then they would not allow us not to remove our name. So we kind of wrote a little statement that when it went out and it hit the field, and we got the calls of, what's wrong with you people? We sent out our little statement that meant nothing. So for a while, it was 2 separate special ed, needed to have regular ed. And we saw the impact, because I have so many people that will come in and they'll say, you know, I'm a psychology major. And then they say, oh my gosh, I started to do some experiences with kids with disabilities. I love that. How do I become a teacher? And at that point in time, when you needed both, I'd have to say, well, do you want to 8th grade or 7-12? What content, what regular ed? And it'll take you this many credits. And it's a, you know, I'm not doing it. I can't do that. Graduate was the biggest, because that everybody back then, you were talking about your daughter, how she just found that she's like this wonderful teacher, right? By accident. And so they'll come and say, I want to be a special ed teacher. And I would say, we'll start at 36 credits, but we'll back down. We'll see what other courses you need. At that time, I'd have to say, it's 85 credits. And a graduate student said, 85 credits, how much is a doctorate? You know? So now 2021, what happened? We went back to PK-12, special ed. You do not need to have it attached to general ed. You do not need to do anything. Anybody could come in now and say, I want to be a special ed teacher. Okay, we'll provide the training, preparation for that to happen. So in our first world of PK-12, we had a partnership with Bangor Area School District as a professional development school, just like we run our professional development model now with your school district and 17 others, where it's a partnership between the school and the university. The students go on a regular basis to classes. They build on that experience from their freshman year. They ultimately go to that school. I think of ESASD and Bushkill and all the schools we use. We use South this year, and then they'll come back for student teaching. And it's this really wonderful opportunity where they keep building their schools, and you as a future employer get to learn about them too and say, I don't want this person to go. I want to keep this person. We changed our schedule so our students now can be substitutes for school districts because of those kind of problems. So we give them days without classes so they can go into schools and stuff. The days that they are in the schools, they can substitute for their mentor as allowed by the state. Well, when that special ed program went by the wayside, we couldn't continue with Bangor because there was no meaning behind it anymore. When it came back, I pulled some people that were originally part of that plan, said, you know, it's time that we do that. And you just seemed like a very logical partner for what we were doing. So we looked at what are the opportunities to use East Stroudsburg Area School District as our professional development school for special education only. It doesn't deter. We can go to the next one, Sherrod. Thank you. It doesn't deter away from any of the schools we use now with our regular ed and special ed. It would just be an additional component. And when we look at professional development schools, there's a number of outcomes that come from that, but we know that those partnerships are more sustaining. there's longer life and retention of those teachers. The academic skills of kids start to show some very positive achievement outcomes. And obviously, all the other social aspects become great because that teacher becomes involved and they become invested. I used to run a very large national school for kids with behavior disorders, and I still tell my students now, I always wanted to hire the biggest bang for the buck. So I'm glad you're smart in college. What else did you do? Because when you come to me at my school, I'm beginning to think, oh, you're gonna run this morning program. Oh, you're a water safety inspector? I don't have to pay $95 for a person to be a lifeguard. You're going with us. If you were a bus driver, that was an added bonus, right? So whatever we can get, so we see these sustained kind of partners. So when we started to look at those kind of opportunities, we introduced, Terrell, you can flip that to just this program. We just call it TEACH, the teachers educating, advocating, collaborating, and helping. And we started to determine what would it look like to create a professional development school for special education only, K, early intervention, but K through 12th grade with the district. And how could we tie our classes to that commitment within your school district to uphold your policies and practices, and yet see it as a very influential pre-service type of preparation for our teachers as well. So I had worked with Ed Mooney every time we had a student teacher here and always came through his classroom. I see that you just rehired last year, Gracie Martini back. She was like one of our students that was never coming back, but she had a great job and what happened. Loved it, you know, and it's so influential. You have unified sports, so many great things. So in working with Michelle as being one of our instructors in those preparation classes, we started to look at our students have their experiences beginning their freshman year. And so when we look from freshman year to student teaching, that's 8 semesters. How would it look if we went back to that professional development school model? We used your school exclusively for our special ed only students and create that partnership with Ed as a liaison, Michelle being a conduit between the school and us, Jackie Kessel, our director for field experience, myself as chair of the department, and certainly Brian and other administrators here to create that hub where our special ed students would come here for all of their classes. Classes, preparation, opportunities, experiences. So Michelle and some of her students really started to look at how could this work. So all of our classes, and I saw your write-up about the dual enrollment, they're also dual enrollment for many of your students as well. Those experiences start immediately. And they go from just an awareness to an exploration, to an elaboration, to utilization. And if we think about how do we continue to expand that with their classes. So they would start out with all the experiences that you offer to your teachers and to your students with disabilities. And the coursework then is tied into experiences and assessments and assignments that they would be able to do with students here as well as in their classroom. You want to pick up on that part?
So one of the things we know in special ed, we run a large gamut. We could be in autistic support, life skills, itinerant learning support, emotional behavior. So we've got the whole gamut. And which is why it's really important to start in that freshman year to give them that exposure. So in their freshman year, they kind of get to pick what is it that I want to see. I think I might want to do life skills. Let's get some hours there. By the time they come to essentially their junior year, they're going to start actually getting in their tutoring. We run the only gifted institute in the state of PA. We've been recognized. It originally started here and then we did break away for a little bit to go statewide. We also run tutoring and all the other things, but that starts really early on because again, you could be in a life skills classroom or, you know, a learning support, and they're two very different classroom setups. You know, we were talking about scope and sequence. One of the assignments in the junior year fall semester is they take a scope and sequence and they actually look at a piece of it, and then they talk about how do we differentiate and modify based on that part of the scope and sequence. And you'll see that on the next slide. That's in 313. So it kind of falls in a weird little right now because we are transitioning to this. So some of these classes are ideally, I'm sorry, go back one. Are ideally where they will end up being once we officially have it. But right now with the transition, we're 2 years into the program. Obviously this would be year 3. But that's one of the things we do. We start looking at the IEP. The IEP's typically been in their sophomore year, but then they don't use it again until their senior year. Now we have the IEP still being introduced in their sophomore year, but now in their junior year, they're taking a case study and actually creating an IEP. So there's a lot more in depth that we get to go a little bit with them. It also gives them the opportunity. So one of the things when we met with Jackie a couple weeks ago was we were talking about students who are in transition classes or who were in some special needs classes. Okay, well, what does that look like here? And our district is one of the few districts that does have multiple in-house programs, such as the life skills, the autistic support, things of that nature. We're not just sending everybody to IU20. So that was really important to us, that we wanted to make sure we had a district that could help support that.
And the kids started to develop a real love for where they're at. And they want to stay. They want to continue that. And when I look at our very first class 102, which is one of your dual enrollment classes, the person that I have teaching that, my basic message to her as her chairperson is, that is the Walmart reader class. That is the class that either at the end they have to say, this is what I want to do and why, or this is what I do not want to do and why. And that's great. But it can't be because of the assignments, the experiences, or you as the instructor. It has to be because of the whole package. And that is the selling class. So that's that awareness part. Then you look at that sophomore year, and that's that exploration. Okay, now I'm going to really start exploring these things. Junior year is your elaboration. Now I'm in the schools 1 day a week. Then I'll move to 2 days a week, then ultimately to student teaching. And I look at our students that have been here and the positive experiences, they want to stay and they're looking for the jobs. And I know we're very grateful the amount of ESU students that you've hired across time has been wonderful because it's that commitment when they start.
And just to elaborate, your typical PDS is the second semester junior year, and then their first semester senior, and then student teaching. In special ed, it becomes their whole junior year. It's kind of a PDS 1. They're in the field 1 day a week. So they just get a little bit extra experience again, because we need to make sure they get the whole gamut.
And so then you say, well, what are the deliverables? And some of them we put up there, you can't, it's not an exhaustive list, but the points of contact between your school district and ours have continuously grown through our Aspiring Educator Program, Future Teachers Program, our current PDS model, the schools that we're working in right now, that collaborative type of opportunities that we've always had. We look at what we've been able to do with emergency certified teachers and provide that support. We're starting a new mentoring program that I asked Michelle to take over, because we know districts have so much to do. So we're really targeting mentoring now, this one-on-one. It's a thing that we did in the state. Over 500 volunteers have responded to the state to be mentors to other educators, any type of educators. We're looking at ways to show the students all types of education careers, not just a teacher, because some people want to do other things and they weren't aware that there are other educational opportunities other than being a teacher. All of our mental health training, one of the things that we've provided are multiple tiers of mental health training, evidence-based practice, question, persuade, refer, suicide gatekeeper, youth mental health first aid, suicide gatekeeper. trauma-informed practices. And those are things that I've worked with superintendents and said, in Pennsylvania, under Act 71, every 6 years you must provide some type of training. What the state didn't do was talk about the type of training. So I'm in schools that either do a module, you sign off, or very extensive work around there. So I asked the superintendents I work with, if we provided this training, would you take it as completed when you hire them? And they were like grateful, like, yes. And some superintendents said, just train our whole faculty then on this kind of stuff. That would be great. So all those mental health opportunities that we have, not only with the community, but through our school that you have and share. All of our extended, all of our speaker series. We recently had Erin Ruwal, the teacher from Freedom Writers, that we now have really developed quite a relationship with in the Pocono Cinema, that make the community involved, where we've done her documentary, we've done her films, and then she comes on afterwards and runs kind of a question and answer. And the last one, we had so many community members come that aren't associated with the school, just were interested in that. So that's great. And, you know, when we think about it, there's all those future dreams. Our goal is to attract, prepare, and retain. Our goal is to provide exceptional teacher prep at the pre-service level. We know you provide tremendous professional opportunities at the in-service level. So to keep that working together. So that's our proposal. That's what we've tried to put together. And we're excited that maybe it'll come to fruition on a larger stage.
Question, with your students coming into, and correct me if I'm wrong from what I was hearing, each semester for the 8 semesters, is it like for, let's say when they're freshmen, is it like one course, like hour wise? Like I saw when you said junior year, it's one day, then it goes to 2 days and obviously to full student teaching as senior, but in that freshman sophomore year, what does that look like in terms of their involvement?
Well, it could range from what our director, Jackie Kessel, has been able to do is to work with school districts and kind of create more of a organized fashion of that. So if you're in stage 1 and stage 2, here's the schools we're going to use. Here's what the students will do. It's much more than observation. Obviously, the first time you're going to observe, but we would hope that you're doing some other things. So the professors then have suggested, okay, here are some things that we can do. So if I'm coming to your class, you know that if I'm coming in at this level, here are my expectations. Here's what I'll be able to do. So at least it frames for the teacher, what am I supposed to do with this body? I don't want extra people that I have to take care of.
No, agreed. And
It's 10 hours,
10
typically
hours.
10 to
Okay.
20 hours
Okay.
in during freshman and sophomore
Okay.
semester.
The reason why I asked that, I went to Seton Hall University many years ago. And we were out in our freshman year. We were out all 8 semesters. And I think that's the best way to do it because one, it kind of, as you said, not only the class that's the Walmart greeter, but getting out into the classroom, you know, early on, whether or not this is the career path you want, instead of waiting to your student teaching, when you're beginning your senior year and you walk in and you have to do all this and you think, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? I don't want to do this. And you've pretty much finished your degree at that point.
Exactly.
So, I mean, I'm definitely having had my own experience that way. I think particularly in special ed, as you mentioned, we run the whole gamut. And so within special ed, kind of, I think which with, as speaking to another educator, you do develop your niche, you know, the age of the students that you like, you know, I mean, and obviously, you know, your level of expertise, you know, and disabilities as well. So, you know, I give you kudos for sure. And I think it's, you know, it's a great way to move forward.
And we are seeing and thank you, everybody that's online, feel free to join in as well. We've seen from our professional development model with our general ed special ed, which I still maintain those programs. So the kids have 9 ways to become certified. Those experiences have been unbelievable.
Yep.
And what they've been able to give to the school has given back to them is so mutual. It's not an expert model, which should be dissolved anyway. It's a collaborative model, how we learn together. What are we doing to solve some of the issues that are happening? But my undergraduate, you started freshman year too, and I talked to my friends, probably like you did, they said, you're where?
I
Like,
know.
I'm in a school.
Yeah, and it was scary, I mean, at the
Yeah.
very beginning, because you're young too.
And
You
I'm
know,
high school emotional support, that's my
I was
thing.
high school as well, so
That's
you're
where
pretty
I'm
much the
coming
same
from.
age and you're going in, you know.
Yeah.
But I think it's great. Is this something that like you're explaining to us because we already have this program with them, or is this something that you're asking for our support of? Like what's?
Yes, exactly. So we're looking for a school board support to recognize and support our continuation, our development of our partnership. You know, this is somewhat of it's part of our solution as a district with the ESU to address the professional shortage right now. Especially in special education, it's very difficult to find highly qualified candidates. And with this, you know, we have staff that are involved with this. Our professional staff is involved with this model. They're behind it. Michelle is one of those individuals, along with Ed. And so, you know, we want to, and I said to Dr. Skelly, is this committee that this would be the committee to start? Is this
Yeah, we're the committee to start with, sure.
another presentation at a bigger board meeting with more? I think again, it's, you know, we struggle to find candidates again, and it's the uptick right now that's going on across the
Oh,
state.
definitely.
Funny connections. One of our students was with Miss Silva. And I was her supervisor, so I'm coming in and love what's happening, love it. But she had a paraprofessional. Stativia, okay, and we start talking. And she's from St. Lucia. And I said, well, why aren't we doing something with St. Lucia? She goes, oh, I'd love to do something with St. Lucia. I said, well, certainly I'd love to do something with St. Lucia too. So she contacted her principal, because I was telling her I was doing some work in Jamaica because the kids just won't be integrated. They don't believe in it. And there's people that say, our kids should be integrated, they shouldn't be, you know, separated. So we started talking, so she hooked us up with our principal, which will now be an initiative back at the university between, hopefully, again, here and St. Lucia, to begin some educational kind of programs, which will be an international opportunity for our students as they now have with Germany and some other countries. So the impact it just starts building.
Yeah.
And this would be the continuum, as I mentioned early, when I mentioned introducing Dr. Scalia, that, you know, the future educator program that kicked off at both of our high schools this past year. We had probably about, I don't know, about a half a dozen students that are interested in special education. I think we had a psychologist that was interested there. And so this is that next piece of support to keep the dream alive for those students in our district right now that want to be and give back and get an education.
What is it that what is it, like, I guess specifically that you need from us or want from us in terms of moving it forward? I guess is what I'm
Tell me
looking
the
for.
next step.
Yeah,
Because
I mean,
wouldn't
because
want to
obviously
do
we're already involved in future educators and
Yeah.
we've already approved that moving forward at our last board
Yeah.
meeting.
And you have a
So,
professional development school, so
Correct.
this is just now
Another portion.
specific to special ed, but it would just be with your school district. As opposed to our larger professional development, which is with multiple districts.
So if you're looking for a recommendation, it would be that we're proposing the proposal by ESU as that we are a satellite
Exclusive.
district
Yeah.
for special education in our partnership with ESU moving forward.
And we have a number of attract, repair, and retain grants. We're doing a lot with your paraprofessionals right now.
I was gonna ask that.
On an accelerated program on the attract, repair, and retain. We work exclusively with Northampton Community College. I reviewed their program. They were off a couple of classes that the kids came to us. It was kind of odd. So they built the classes. So now if a student stays there, which is great, does their associates, they come in clean to our place for the last 2 years. So they would be able to hook immediately into this. Doesn't matter if you're not starting in your freshman year, there will be a place and an entry port at every year and every class for you to do that.
I think Dr. Piparato has her hand up there virtually.
Virtual hand, sorry about that.
Hi, hello, Dr. Scala. I'm well, thank you. Good to see you again. I'm excited about the possibilities here and one of my wonderings that to take it to the
Unmute.
next.
She's muted.
I can't hear you.
It says mute.
Yeah, I think you're
Try again.
glitching, Heather. Something's not connecting with your connection.
Unmute.
She's not muted, but.
Her screen says mute.
Yeah, that's for me to mute her. She's not.
Oh, oh, you have that control. My husband would love that.
Yeah. Mine too.
I hear you.
Can you
We
hear me
can't
now?
hear you, Heather.
You can.
No.
Oh,
No.
okay. No, don't worry. It wasn't ground.
She said, don't worry about it.
Can you write it?
Keep going.
Are you okay?
No.
Oh, that's too bad. I'm sure it was a good intriguing question. So we wanted to just bring it to your
Yep.
attention.
Okay.
Because I think
Yeah,
it's
it's-
a very exciting opportunity and it just parallels something that we've been doing for years, but now it'll be exclusive to
To-
your district and
and
special
special
ed
education,
education. So
yeah.
there, those kids that come in and say, I only want to be in special ed, I don't want the regular ed side. They can test into regular ed
Mhm.
if they want to, but they can't test into special ed, so they take that exclusively, and that's generally kids around autistic support or, you know, I have a brother that has this, and this is what I want to do. So now we know there's this straight connection that we'll be working with that because of the large array of classes that you have, it will just work perfectly.
Do you
Yeah,
have
it's
a,
something
do you have a particular, I mean, I'm trying to, as we're listening and speaking, formatting a recommendation in language. Do you have one already written up or?
I
is
could give
there
you
one
something, yes. I
that-
mean, it's an extension of the future educator cohort program proposal that was started. This is that, let's say that post-secondary connection. That piece, it's an initiative by the Department of Education. The IU is involved in developing and building future educator. We as a district, we're moving forward as a district, but in specific, we're concentrating on special education through our partnership with ESU.
So we want to be ESU's exclusive.
Yeah.
school for
I
placement.
like that you said it before.
So ESU would like us to be their exclusive school
Yeah, I-
for placement for
Special education.
For
teachers.
special
I have
education.
post-secondary extension of future educators, exclusive to our school district and special education students at ESU.
not just our students, but all students at ESU who are in special education. We'd be the exclusive school for student tutoring.
We're the key K
All
12 special ed.
experience.
Way beyond student teachers.
Okay, all experience.
Right, yeah.
Gotcha.
And, you know, we could pull some of this information from professional development schools.
Well, maybe, we can exchange, or she can send it to you, however you wanna do
You
it.
could just
Put it together, we'll move it forward,
That's whatever you stated it.
or generically, and, you know, for recommendation to the school board meeting and. the
Yes, so
meeting
it's right.
Prior to the
yes.
school board meeting, we'll
Correct.
have, we could
Yeah, exactly.
work on the correct language of it.
Heather Smith?
Recommendation to work and get you an exclusive partnership with preparation of special education
Perfect.
teachers.
That's kind of like what I said, but better.
Thank you.
I think Rhonda said it much better than I did.
Somebody wanna- Can you see
I
that
will,
on the
yes.
screen? So-
Yes, I will. Thank you.
Okay, but we can put that into the, maybe she can put that into the minutes just for.
And I
us
just
to have it
want
as
to
a
compliment
recommendation.
Dr. Bradley too, because she exposed us to the STEAM art program, which now our postgrad students pick up as an opportunity to learn. And so we have a meeting tomorrow, and that has expanded the opportunities for my postgrad students tremendously. It's just,
Excellent.
We as a district, we're very fortunate to have the programming and the amount of, I mean, the group of people that we have in our special education department, I mean, that's our biggest resource and what they're doing. They're passing that knowledge and know-how on. And we have invested as a district into that professional and that support staff and special education. So we're looking to create and establish the next generation of highly qualified special educators.
and you know, when they talk about the future educators, I'm doing a project with Pocono Mountain. And it's one that will be replicated then with your future teachers. And they come on campus once a semester and we do various things. So the first one, they're integrated in my class for Inclusive School Week, the first week of December, the national initiative. They help present, tour, eat lunch, what they like best. You can eat in the cafeteria, that's like awesome. And it's like, okay. So the next semester, we have a residential college where everybody that comes to our university in education all stays in the same dorm, either a traditional dorm or a suite their first year. Their classes are there, activities are there, everything happens there. Michelle and her colleagues started a top threats because we found students that didn't have clothes to go out in the field, so they started clothes classing, which has been unbelievable. So now where the hotel and restaurant management said, hey, can you get black pants and white tops?
Oh, please let me know if you need stuff. I have
Yeah,
so much
but
old
Just
students.
send me an email, trust me, I pick them up.
Okay. I have
And
tons-
immediate-
tons
We
of stuff.
found, saying that, there were a few law firms in town that heard about it, and so they have donated, and it's beautiful Talbot suits, so
Yeah,
I mean,
I wish-
I
I wish-
find myself sometimes just walking in. It's not funny, but like, fitting those kind of needs. Moved our food pantry from the university where kids did not come because they were embarrassed to St. Matthews. And now the uptick of that is unbelievable, but our kids get involved.
And the fact that ESU now put our church to their bus run
Yes.
so that they can come.
Yes.
Yeah,
You go to
it's really,
that?
yes, yeah,
And we just started ESU Path Club,
yeah,
because there was not one.
yeah, I know.
And when we have over 200 organizations at the university, when they were all out, when the kids come and find out what else they want to do. All the religious groups happened to be together. There were some people that were like, you know what the kids did? Oh, well, what religion are you? Oh, what religion? Hey, why don't we do something
That
together?
was one.
And all of a sudden, people stayed back and said, you know, that's the way
Yeah.
it should happen
Yeah.
organically,
Yeah.
right? Not, okay, Catholics here, Jewish here.
Yeah,
They all started saying, hey, we could do some things together and now doing stuff.
yeah.
So
wonderful.
those are all experiences.
Yeah.
But in this Pocono Mountain, the last one was at the residential college, then we had focus groups where my college students had focus questions and the kids loved it. As a high school student, asking a college student about these kind of things. The last one that I had in the spring, 3 kids came. Well, a lot of people come, 40-some kids come. But these 3 kids had the ESU clothes on. I said, oh, it's kind of cute that you wore ESU. They all chose the ESU. One was going to Drexel, one was going to Penn State, and one was coming to us. But they said, after this experience, this is where I want to be.
Wow,
And it's
wonderful.
like, wow, that's where, you know, it starts. So when we went to your first AEPP meeting here, my God, that was like powerful. And so we're looking forward to work with them on everything. So thank you for your
Yeah,
time.
thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
All the
This is the
information.
best, this committee is the most fun out of all the committees.
Finance and properties.
Finance and properties and facilities, policies, so.
Finance, I have to say my because they don't understand that, but you know, this is open to the public.
It is.
It is, oh, yeah, it
Yeah,
is.
we-
This is very enjoyable.
It is.
It is open to the public, so, you know, and we always talk about, this committee started, Jason, what, 4 years
About
ago?
4 years ago.
Yeah, because when I got on the board, this committee didn't exist. And I said, you know, if our job is to educate,
Yeah.
we need
Okay.
education programs and
Education programs and
resources, so we learn about everything that isn't finance, isn't a policy, or isn't, you know, properties and facilities.
I'm not gonna listen to that communication guy forever. I mean, what's going on there? It's like, wow.
Yeah.
So thank you
You're
for
good.
seeing more.
Thank you.
Thank you.
By all means,
Thank you for
thank
your
you for
time.
your work.
Please let me know.
Thank you.
It is like almost 40 pounds, so none of my clothes fit, so.
It goes quick. I
Thank you.
usually drop off about 100 to 200 new items every month to every other month, and they're usually start on by the time I get my next.
You better get the clothes.
So, yeah. Thank you, thank you. Any two is 15, and I'm not sure.
I gave up soda
I've never tried snake.
and I gave up sugar snacks.
All right, well, we're gonna move on.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you.
Thank
Have a
you.
great night.
Yeah. And our last item for discussion under our discussion items is the science playground.
Got the robotic.
I had removed that. from the game.
Yeah.
I had gone to the last meeting of the Science Playground Feasibility Study Committee. And unfortunately, on that day, there was not a quota of people attending, so it was canceled. But I had spoken to, the two committee members who were there, Wayne and George Andrews. And two board members, and said, I think it's really important that EPR get involved in that, because when we're talking feasibility, yet one. Property and facilities where it's going, it would be housed if we were going to do it, finances, can we pay for it? But I would again say, no offense to those two committees, but more importantly, from an educational standpoint. Is it feasible, and where are we in terms of our science curriculum in the elementary level? And so I spoke to some of the science teachers who are on the committee, ad hoc kind of on the committee helping out. And they were, the elementary science people were meeting the next week, I think it was, about curriculum and so forth. And so then I contacted Dr. Bradley as well. And literally, which we knew from when we had our presentation from elementary curriculum, that the new standards, steel standards, are not coming into effect into 2025. And so the curriculum is really just in the process now of being reviewed with the standards. And then there'll be a small pilot, for the following year, and then the following year would be full implementation. And then the following year, so we're talking at least 3 years down the line before it really is feasible to look at the instructional components of what the elementary teachers would want / need to assist in their curriculum. So I mean, that's, at least from what I had gathered and what from what I saw literally. So I'm leaving it now to Dr.
And with the finance committee, we've discussed several times budget and where we're going to be in the next 3 to 5 years. And financially, I don't know that that's something that's going to be affordable right now. We have the higher, the tax situation where we're losing a lot of commercial tax revenue that we were getting before, because of the reclassifications or the reappraisals of certain properties. So the tax income coming in isn't what it used to be. So that's something that we have to consider too. And right now we are getting good interest rates on our money that's making money. But from my experience and what I do, I don't see the higher interest rates staying in the next 2 to 3 years. So that's another revenue source that we might be losing in the next 2 to 3 years as well. Yes, we have it now with treasuries being where they are and saving interest rates where they are. But I don't know, with that being said too, I don't know how it's going to affect even our community members with their ability to pay taxes, or even the layoffs within, the larger companies happening, if people are going to be able to afford to, do those things.
And one of the things I think was brought up in property and facilities, and George Andrews is on, he can correct me if I'm wrong, is, for equity purposes too, and that was one of the things that came up with the teachers. We can't, in their minds, like just having one, is not really equitable. And then the amount of money, the changes to current playgrounds, there's a lot. And as you just said, as chair of the finance committee, economics, but I looked at it, as chair of obviously EPR from an educational standpoint. It's not something that, we're not ready for it.
And the idea is a great idea.
Yeah, it's a wonderful idea, and I appreciate the community member who, brought it to our attention, all community members, anytime they have a suggestion, that's what a feasibility study is supposed to do. But the point, at least from the educational perspective, is definitely not feasible, as you said, from, the finance committee, not so either, so. Any other discussion, Jason? I don't know if you wanted to add anything, or anybody online wants to add anything to that?
No, I mean, you guys.
So I put together this a general statement trying to capitalize on all of the things that you've shared. equity financially, right? And after thorough consideration, we are recommending that the temporary science playground feasibility study committee be dissolved due to the timing of the curriculum cycle, equity concerns, and the current constraints of our school district budget. We will remain committed to providing and enriching and equitable educational experiences for all our students. However, we must prioritize initiatives that align with our immediate curricular needs and fiscal responsibilities, to your point as well. We wish to thank everyone who participated in the conversation around this topic, including our community members and district staff who committed their time as well to that.
Thank you.
George,
Well,
did you want
thank
to
you.
add anything?
is there anybody online, because we're now in public comment section so is anybody online? Or nope, nobody's online for comments, okay? George, did you want to say anything to that? All right, then we'll move on to the advisory recommendations for consideration by the Finance Committee and by the Board of or the Board of Education. The first is the purchase of updated AP psychology text due to College Board course updates. The book is from BFW Publishing. The amount is $20,157, fully funded by the 2024-25 curriculum and instruction budget.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The second is the Zaner Blosser multi-year contract, professional development days, which is total of $25,670, fully funded by the ESSER 3 grant.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, I don't know if you just want to make a statement about that, Dr. Bradley?
Thank you. That's a continuation of coaching services that we've had for we had a 2-year contract for the first 2 years of implementation. This 3rd year will provide us with, again, in-class coaching support for new to the district teachers and new to the grade level teachers. If you're in 3rd through 5th and you move to K-2, that Super Kids program is very different. And so we want to be sure we're supporting all of our teachers who are new to those grade levels, as well as then also providing building grade level specific support as they travel to each school as they did last year. I must announce a conflict of interest when I was going through my files. I did receive a handwriting certificate in 4th and 5th grade from Zaner Bloser for my cursive. So I'm not sure if I need to share that, but I wanted to put that out there for you guys.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the next is the purchase of IXL for ELA and intermediate science, total $51,525, fully funded by ESSER
Question mark.
grants, but there's a question mark next to it, so it is. Okay,
Okay, so
all
we'll
right,
Okay.
so we can remove the question mark, okay?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Motion for this.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and we're going to make a motion for the presentation that we had today for the post-secondary extension of our future educators with ESU for exclusivity for our school district and the students at ESU. Okay,
Right.
well, I should say motion, I'm sorry.
Motion.
Second.
Any discussion?
Nope.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and I believe that, I don't know, we need the science playground was already read to us. I don't think we have to
Make a
have
motion.
that, read that, but.
Motion.
Second it.
Okay, and we had a discussion, but any other further discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so moved. And I think that's it. Okay, our next meeting
If that's
is,
wrong.
well, we hadn't really discussed that, so something we have to discuss. We are going to be moving our meetings from the 4th Monday of the month to the 1st Thursday of the month, so that they will precede the finance and the regular school board meeting, because it seems to be what's needed, you know, in terms of like materials and so forth, programs and things, especially as we're getting closer to the school year. So I guess we can decide here if, and Heather and actually Dr. Vibrato and Dr. Bradley, if you feel I mean, I have no issue meeting on July, because, you know, and then first in August, it's like 10 days difference. If you feel we need 2 meetings, or, is just meeting in August sufficient enough? Because this meeting is going to be, what we just did today
Will be,
is
yeah,
going to
July.
the July board meeting
Yeah.
anyway. So if we meet in the beginning of all the first Thursday of August, that would be for that meeting. So I just
We'll be
wanna
doubling.
make, yeah, I don't, you know, but I don't know if there's anything in particular you know, as directors feel you need, otherwise, I have no issue moving it forward.
I think Dr. Piperato has a comment.
Can you
Type it.
type it? Yeah,
Type it.
Type it
Type
in.
it, yeah.
I think she
She
did.
did. What's it
Can
say?
somebody read it?
I don't have
Yeah, I can't read what it says.
But
I
the
can go closer.
July meeting would, the July meeting wouldn't.
Would I go closer so I can see? Hold on.
She says that I would like to keep the July meeting because we may have some other recommendations for fall purchases that would be better done in July.
But it, well, if we do it
But
in
they're not
July,
gonna-
it won't
they're
go
not
to
gonna
the
go
August-
till the
until
August.
They wouldn't be
meeting.
approved until
The August.
The
the
meeting.
August
meeting.
meeting anyway.
That's the problem.
That's true, she's saying,
Yep.
don't worry about it,
Mhm.
okay. Okay, so then I guess formally, and I will make sure Patricia knows this, Patricia does have the new dates. And has advertised them, or will be advertising them as, you know, needed according to policy, et cetera. But just for online purposes and for our minutes, then our next meeting, July 22nd, has been canceled. And our new meeting is
August
the
1st.
first Thursday of August, which is August 1st.
And just so you know, I will be remote
August first?
Okay,
and I may have to drop off at some point because I'll be getting ready to get on a plane to come back home from my work trip.
okay,
So I'll be in the airport.
okay, all right, but, so you really will be zooming in.
Yes, and I'll stay on my phone as long as they let me when I'm sitting in the, you know, in the plane. Till they say, turn off your Wi-Fi, then I have to
Excellent, I got you.
drop off.
Okay, so there we are. All right, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Susan.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Heather, for coming on during your vacation. Appreciate it
Thank
very
you.
much. Thanks so much.